I don't know how long we got left, but let me say this.
You got as much time as you want, but I don't want to keep you past.
I just want to say this one thing, because you brought up this thing about genetics. This is what I feel. You know, I've talked about this reptilian stuff, and people kind of immediately kind of dismiss it because it's so different to their reality. You look at some of the things in the Bible, you look at endless accounts in other ancient writings, and you'll see this theme coming up. For me, I mean, do people think that the snake in the Garden of Eden with Adam and Eve, which was all about genetics and the changing of humanity and all the rest of it, and leaving the paradise, do they think it was literally a snake? And that story can be found in the same basic form all over the world.
Well, it wasn't. He had legs. It says...
Yes, exactly. The Jewish name for that snake actually refers to a humanoid being. Now, for me, that whole Adam and Eve kind of symbolism, which you find around the world where it talks about these reptilian gods manipulating human genetics, for me, what they've done, and there's increasing hard genetic evidence for this, is they spliced the genes around and the DNA around so that we stopped perceiving, decoding the frequency on which these people live. Because if you look at ancient accounts, they talk about the gods living amongst them. Well, where the hell are these gods? I'll tell you what I feel. And also they talk about people living incredible long lives and incredible things that they could see that we think, oh, that must be fantasy because we can't see it. I would say very strongly, my research is moving so fast in this direction that the human form has been genetically manipulated, and we used to have far more strands of DNA than we do now, and this all relates to this junk DNA that they say they don't know what it does. Well, I'll tell you what it does. It connects us to all those frequency areas we could decode at one point that we can't decode now. What we call dark energy, dark mass is just a continuation of the reality that we have. Because of the manipulation of the receiver-transmitter decoder, the body, we're not accessing the range of that reality that we used to.
Well, by the way, David, this is not just your opinion. As you know, major scientific institutions, governments had always said it was junk DNA, but now they're noticing that even if you believe in evolution, on a different evolutionary curve, humans have in their DNA copies of all these other life forms that aren't in our supposed evolutionary development with the way that, they've put out evolution and all the disinformation packaged on that. And top scientists who were atheists are now saying, I don't know what made it, but this stuff is engineered.
Yeah, well, exactly. And the human condition can be brilliantly symbolized by what's happening in China. We have a collective reality called the Internet, which is very, very, in a much lesser way, of course, very symbolic of the reality we're actually experiencing, the Matrix. What they do in China, the authorities, because they don't want the people to have access to information that could wake them up and get them to see the situation, is they're firewalling off computers, of course, so that people in China can only access a much smaller part of the Internet than the rest of the population.
But that didn't work. Hold on, that didn't work. So now they're going to, by law, make all new computers have a self-regulator built into it. That's the drugs, that's the chemicals, that's the programming in the computer itself, not just the network.
Yeah, and what initially happened, I would suggest, is that those body computers were programmed to not receive and therefore decode and experience the range of frequencies we could before, which scientists are calling dark mass, dark energy in this universe. And so we're actually, and look at it, visible light, the only frequency range that we can perceive, is ludicrously tiny. Why? Because it's been, the body computer has been made to only access that frequency. And that's what's happened, and that's why we can't see the gods now that operate just outside of visible light, as the ancient accounts talked about in eons ago.
Amazing. We promised to go through these calls. We're going to end the show in just a few minutes here. Quickly, I've just got a new list here. Let's talk to Leo. Leo, you're on the air with David Icke. Go ahead.
Hi, this is Leo from Arcturus.
Okay, let's not screw around. Go ahead and ask your question to David Icke, or I'm going to move on.
Okay, I think we should start letting everybody know about Hitler's brown shirts being done in on the Night of the Long Knives, because that's how we get the police to understand that they're disposable. And as far as calling people sheeple, it's an insult to sheep, because sheep are way too smart to watch television. And we should call them asleeple, because they're sleepwalking through life.
I hear you, Leo. I appreciate your call. Yes, the elites, why do elites always terminate the group that helped them bring in the tyranny?
Because they don't want them either. I mean, this is the thing about elites. They are as contemptuous, in fact, even more so, of those that blindly help them bring in their tyrannies as they are the general population that they tyrannize. They've got total contempt. You see, these guys see humans in terms of the way so many humans see cattle. And, they use the cattle to help them control and tyrannize the rest of the cattle, but they're still cattle. They might have a fancy title. There might be head of this organization, but to the elite of the elite, they're still
Exactly.
cattle, and therefore disposable.
Folks, do you respect a cow more or a sheep, or do you respect a grizzly bear or a wolf? Do you respect a killer whale more than you respect a jellyfish? You see, the elite respect people that fight them and resist them and know what they are. They think of, and I've had globalists tell me that. A few final calls. Got to let David go in here just a minute. This is just amazing information. Let's talk to, up next, Robert in Kentucky. You're on the air. Go ahead.
Oh, great. Alex, David, big fan of both yours. It's an honor to talk to you. I just wanted to know, David, from your perspective, I'm glad you brought up the reptilian. Last week, the U.S. military cut off all information on incoming foreign bodies.
Yes, that was in the Associated Press and NASA. All meteor storms, they have them every year. Everything's classified coming into the atmosphere now, and all the rocks that come into the planet that they put on the news. Now, national security, David. I know you saw that. What do you? Sorry, caller. Go ahead.
Do you think that? What is your perspective on that playing into the return of the Anunnaki, the gods? Like I said, I'll take the answer off.
Or are the globalists going to stage a fake blue beam? Go ahead. Thank you, caller.
Yeah, well, any of these things are possible. I mean, the thing is that we are not the only life species in this universe, but people see visible light as the universe, and like I say, the universe is visible light plus all the dark matter, which is the vast the vast majority of this universe we cannot decode, and it's very badly named dark matter or dark energy because it gives the perception of being like somewhere with a light off. It's not like that. They call it dark because they can't see it, and they can't see it because they're in bodies that can't decode it. And a lot of these so-called aliens or extraterrestrial forms, they actually come into visible light from the dark energy areas of the universe because they can move frequencies. And so they can appear and disappear. This is when people see a UFO or some entity appear and disappear. It's left the frequency of visible light, so they can't decode it. So to their perception, it appears and disappears. It doesn't. It just moves into another.
Well, now that we've gotten off into this realm, we are on a planet in the middle of the universe with billions of galaxies around us. And caller, I appreciate your call. In closing, David, is there anybody going to come help us from the evil reptoid rulers? I mean, anybody going to save us, or I guess that's up to us to do.
I don't think we need saving. I think the means is already there. It's called becoming conscious. And you see, there's a reason why these guys are terrified of us becoming conscious, and they work so desperately hard, more so than ever before, because they have to keep us asleep. Because when we wake up, it's over for them, and they know that. I don't fully know the reason, but there's a reason they're terrified of us, because of powers that humans have that they do not have. And certainly when you are in the depth I don't like using the word evil, but the depth of imbalance that they're in, and sickness, they cannot even begin to access consciousness. They're so far away from it vibrationally because of the density their state of mind puts them in.
Well, David, since you brought up the Garden of Eden, and the issue here is we're made in the image of God. I mean, if you really interpret the Bible that way, are we a copy or some manifestation of something else that's on other planets?